Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this hybrid session on circular fertilizers, which is incidentally the final session of the final event of the Fairplay project. My name is Beray Çaylı, and I'm delighted to be your moderator today on behalf of ACR Plus. We are hosting this session in a hybrid format with in-person and online participants. So a warm welcome to all of you who is joining us virtually. Please feel free to engage using the chat function, and we will do our best to address your questions. So today's discussion, we will explore circular fertilizers, what they are, their benefits, safety considerations, the role of public authorities, and their market availability. We are joined by experts who will share their insights, with one speaker here in Brussels with us and the others connecting virtually. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to present. In a reminder to the speakers, you have 3 minutes to present, and it will be followed by a brief Q&A session. So if you have a question and if you're in the room, please raise your hands. Otherwise, we will monitor the chat. So we will get started with Werner Wolkote. Werner is an advisor from Natuurland. He will introduce us to circular fertilizers, what they are, how they're produced, and their impact on soil health. He has been working as an advisor for organic farmers for 35 years, and his main topics are arable crops, grain, legumes, seed production, and plant breeding. Werner,
I'm here.
you can begin, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, hello everybody, and thank you for your interest in our session. I'm starting with basic topics about circular fertilizers. What are circular fertilizers, and what are the main benefits for soil? Circular fertilizers are made from recovered substances. They are either from recycled waste, from subproducts, byproducts, or from wastewater. And with the use of circular fertilizers, we're aiming to improve resilience. Self-sufficiency means to reduce imports of fertilizers to EU, minimizing pollution by using the right amount, and enhancing soil quality. We have two different types of circular fertilizers, two different main types. The first group is the carbon-rich fertilizers. The second group, the more mineral-orientated circular fertilizers. The carbon-rich fertilizers are that we selected in our value chains in the Fairplay project are, for example, compost, the solid phase of biogas substrate, and spent mushroom substrate. You may be surprised to hear about biogas substrate. It does not have a very high content of carbon, but the carbon is quite stable because it has survived the biogas plant. In the mineral circular fertilizers, phosphorus is the main topic at the moment, but nitrogen will follow, and other nutrients. Here, the main aspect are the nutrients, and as you know, there is a minimum level of nutrients necessary for soil and plants. And struvite is the most important circular fertilizer at the moment. The introduction of struvite is a big step forward into a sustainable agriculture, as rock phosphate is limited source, and well, I'm coming from an organic farmers associations. Our farmers were not happy with rock phosphate because it did not work. The carbon-rich fertilizers are made to increase soil organic matter, humus. That's an important thing to have a good soil, so soil quality and soil health. But we have the side effect also of sequestration of carbon by using these carbon-rich fertilizers. That means that we can reduce CO2 in atmosphere. The carbon-rich fertilizers improve the biological activity as they are a feed for our soil life. They improve the nutrient supply of the soils. Although they are not very high concentrated in nutrients, they are an important source for having nutrients in the soil. One of the effects is the volume and the stability of pores, which then influences the water holding capacity, the buffer and the filter functions of the soil. So everything is connected with everything. So an increase of organic matter in first step stabilizes your yields, especially under bad weather conditions. If it's very dry and hot or it's very wet, then your better soil quality gives you a stable, more stable yields. Which means that you have better yields in the average of the years. The mineral circular fertilizers, Struvite, have a slow nutrient release, which is quite important for us. That means a low pollution potential, both in nitrogen substances, in phosphorus, and of course increases the yields if you need to have phosphorus in the soil because there's not enough phosphorus in your soil. So this was the first survey about the benefits for soil, and I'm interested in your questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Werner. Is there any questions from the audience in the room? Otherwise, we can move on to the Q&A from our online audience. Okay. Then I will ask some questions to Werner myself. Werner, you have talked about the problem with supplying volume. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, one of the most positive things that happened in the last years, in my opinion, was that Struvite was included in the organic regulations of the EU, which is a very important step forward. And I was telling this to my farmers and was very happy about this. But the problem is it's not available. The farmers cannot buy it because there are some contradictions in different laws. Because in the EU organic standards, there are certain they need to have a CE label, but all regional small producers of Struvite do not have this label, so it's not available for the farmers at the moment. This is the most difficult problem in the moment. Well, I think with scaling up, this will be solved sooner or later, but in the moment, it's not yet solved.
Another question I wanted to ask is that from a previous project, one of the circular fertilizer producers have underlined the importance of showing the quality of the product rather than the circular aspect of it to convince farmers, because they're more interested in the quality of the product they receive rather than how it was produced. Do you agree with that, or do you have a further comment on it?
Yes, I agree. I have a tendency to agree. It's really important for the farmers that they get a good quality, and this was the reason why we in Naturland Association have for compost did stricter standards for for the quality. Especially, we included plastic maximum amount of plastic and maximum amount of glass, for example, into the standards. And this is an important key to reach the farmers, because in first step they are afraid that they pollute their soil, and then you have to because that they need to have get a good quality.
Thanks a lot, Werner, for this valuable input. Then we can move on to our next presenter, who is going to talk about the safety of the circular fertilizers. We have Vanessa Benuto from Geiker. She's a researcher at Geiker Technology Center since 2005. She manages and develops R&D projects related to biotechnology and environment in areas such as biological treatment of wastewater and contaminated soil, microbiological and biofilm control, and ecotoxicology and human toxicology. So Vanessa, the floor is yours. Please begin your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation to this very interesting event on circular fertilizers. I'll share my screen to see my presentation of you. Well, here we have a very common question. Circular fertilizers are nice, but are they safe? Well, the answer is that we have to check it out, because we can't take it for granted. And when we ask this question, we have to think about the safety for both the human health and the environment. As circular fertilizers derive from secondary raw materials, they may contain some substances and microorganisms which can pose a risk for human and animal health and alter the ecosystems. So the initial question is where is a needed one? And it's paramount to ensure that these circular fertilizers, all the fertilizers, are totally safe. In the European framework, there are some regulations that aim to safeguard the safety of the fertilizers that are placed on the European market, with the aim of guarantee a high soil protection and reduce health and environmental risks. This is the case of the Regulation 2019/1009, which establishes limits for some contaminants and like metals and pathogens, and requirements for a reliable labeling. In this European framework, there also exist other regulations that may apply to some fertilizers, like the REACH regulation on registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals, on the CLP regulation on classification, labeling, and packaging, which their main goal is precisely to ensure the safety of chemicals, including those that can be a component in fertilizers, to protect human health and the environment. What must do a manufacturer to know if a fertilizer is safe? Well, if there exists information on the hazards associated to that fertilizer, their components, it must be gathered and reported. And if not, the necessary ecotoxicological and human toxicological assays should be carried out. Concerning ecotoxicity, there exist numerous bioassays with model organisms, from bacteria to macroalgae to higher organisms. And these assays should demonstrate that the fertilizers are biodegradable, or at least do not persist in the environment for an extended period of time, which could harm ecosystems, and that they are not toxic for soil microorganisms and aquatic and terrestrial wildlife. As for human toxicity, in vitro assays with mammal and human cells and tissue models, as well as in vivo animal tests, can be performed. With these assays, it should be verified whether the products may cause any harm to human health, like skin or eye corrosion or irritation, skin or respiratory sensitization, or mutagenicity. So, well, I hope that this very brief presentation has helped me to, in some way, clarify those lights on the question that raised at the start. So, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Vanessa. Do we have any questions for Vanessa from the audience here? What about online? Okay, very well. Then in that case, I will ask you some questions, Vanessa. You have talked about the safekeeping of safety of circular fertilizers. Do you, in your opinion, are there any gaps in the existing regulations that need to be addressed to improve the market adoption of circular fertilizers?
Sure. I think that till now, the both environmental and human health safety was not not a problem, a concern that was paramount in this kind of regulations, maybe because we are concerned about the toxicity of some chemicals, but not with the goal to put in the framework of the legislation or the regulation this issue. And the gap is that there are no, for many endpoints or for many, I don't know how to say, specific risks, there is no standard regulation, there are standard normatives or guides to know exactly what bioassays or what are the limits to define that that the product in general is toxic or not. So there maybe are some advisory things, advisory guides, but not a specific limits and guides, both things, to check and to see with security what have to do to certify the safety of the products.
Do we have any new questions from the audience? Okay. In that case, thank you so much, Vanessa, for your valuable insights. We can move on to our next speaker. He is Nicolas Cherrier from Brussels Environment. Since his master in waste management 12 years ago, Nicolas is working for Brussels Environment for waste prevention and management. And he coordinates a strategy for organic wastes, and composting is a natural part of it. So we will talk about in order for the public authorities to enable circular fertilizer production, what policies need to be in place, and what steps can the governments take. So, Nicolas, glad to have you with us. Please,
Thank
you
you.
may begin your presentation.
Yeah, good afternoon. So I will mainly speak about composting at different scales. First of all, you probably know that the relevant legislation about composting kitchen waste is animal byproducts regulation from at the EU level. And this regulation is very strict about sanitary and security, and mainly about hygienization. It means that you have to heat the waste at 70 degrees for 1 hour. That's the standard procedure, or you can prove that another procedure gets to the same effect. And then you get an end of waste status on the compost. And yeah, and these regulations also allows member states, like a region for us, to make exemptions, because the normal legislation really aims at industrial scale. So we did other scales, like the small scale composting already existed before the regulation, and they didn't agree with the legislation. This new legislation made it forbid to do it. So because the hygienization criteria were not attained, so there was no end of waste status to the compost, and it was virtually illegal. So we did our own legislation at the regional level, which is called Brudalex, and here you have the links in French and Dutch, not in English, sorry. So, for example, for the large scale, then that's the very normal, I guess every member state does it. With an environmental permit, you can compost. you reach hygienization processes, you have end of waste status, and you can market your compost. And the only thing we added on that is that we add a compulsory training to get the environmental permit as well. So it's technical stuff and also legal stuff about composting. And then different other scales that are new to, I mean, they are not applied in every member state. It's company composting. So we also allow companies to compost on a local scale their organic waste, so kitchen waste and also garden waste. So this is the exception that was planned by the animal byproducts regulation. So a company can compost its own organic waste, including kitchen waste. There is a maximum of 25 cubic meters of waste at any given time on site. And the compost can only be used by this company because the sanitary risk have to be confined, and so they can use the compost under their own responsibilities. They can sell it, they can give it away, and the compost keeps a waste status. So it cannot be marketed, but they can use it as long as they apply the best practices. And therefore, another training is also compulsory too, so that they know about the best practices of managing and using the compost and all the legal framework. And then another scale is the community compost. So this was also made illegal by this byproduct law. So we also made an exception in our regional law. It's basically exactly the same framework as for the companies. The only thing is that companies cannot participate to that one. They really have to be separated, so the risk is confined again. So this is made for citizens only, and only citizens can use the compost. The compost is still with a waste status, and they have to follow a training. So one person in the community has to follow a training to be able to compost this way. Currently in Brussels, we have more than 215 such community composts for a city of 1.2 billion inhabitants, and we're quite proud of that. And then the last scale is the citizen composting on their own at home. So this is not under animal byproduct regulation, so they can basically do as they want. They can compost how they want, whatever they want, and use the compost how they want. But we provide good practices, training, different guides, a help desk, and we participate to events to show how it works. And mostly for, yeah, my slides are in French here, but it's mostly warm composting and well, the one I call normal composting, I don't know, it's just, yeah, the normal composting. I don't know how to call it anything else. Yeah, that's it for the exceptions we made for Brussels.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Do we have questions from the audience, either in room or online?
So we have a question on how the company composting and with the citizen, the community composting that you presented, how are you ensuring that the quality of the compost is sort of what you you prescribe, or what you say in your guidelines?
That's a good question. Actually, we are not responsible for it. So they have their own responsibility in this. They have to ensure that they have a good quality. So either they can, well, we think that if they apply the good practices, then they will reach them. And we've been composting for thousands of years, and we've been using compost in farming for thousands of years. It works, and it works well. We can trust the bacteria and everything as long as the best practices are applied. And that's why we really insist on the guides, the help desk, the trainings, and trainings are compulsory. So that's how we ensure it on our side. On their side, they can make tests. They can go to labs and test their compost. But I don't think any test has been done. We've done some tests to check, and it was okay. But we're not doing it as a standard. We don't do it every time for every compost. We've just done a trial, and it was okay. And we trust the citizen to and the companies to apply the good practices. Unless it's on a large scale, the industrial one with an environmental permit, and then there is regular checking. And also when you want to put it on the market, then you have another set of lab tests to allow to put it on the market. Is that a good? I mean, is that a full reply for you, or
Yeah.
it's not what you wanted to hear? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have another question for you, Nicolo. I was wondering what role did the stakeholders, as in businesses, the community groups, and other policymakers, played in shaping this regulation?
Another good question, and it's actually it came from the bottom up because they already existed before the regulation, but they were illegal because there was no regulation. So we actually started from what was done, and we built the regulation around it, so it also suited and fit the animal byproduct regulation and what exemption we could make, because this regulation tells the member states and region what they are allowed to do. So we did it this way, and we only added the training on top of everything because we really wanted to make sure it works well, and that there is no sanitary issue in the future. So yeah, so it was a bottom up, procedure.
One last question. Do you think this is easy to replicate in other European cities, or is it a very tailor-made regulation for Brussels?
It was really hard for us. It took us a long time to understand what was allowed by this animal byproduct regulation and what we could do. And we found no one who did it before. We asked France, Holland, Germany, for a lot of people. Even we also asked ASEA Plus because they know everyone. And there was no precedent according to what we heard, but everybody wanted to do it anyway. Like community composting happens everywhere, mostly illegally then. But know that our regulation is available for everyone. I'm sure you can just I guess you can copy paste it. You just have to organize the training, and this one you can also copy paste from us. We're happy to share it. So I've put everything in the presentation, the regulation and the links to the websites with loads of information. So don't hesitate to use it and come back to us. But I really believe you can just copy paste it.
On that note, we will share the presentation with the audience after the event. I think we have another question from the audience.
Yes. So the participant would like to know whether we can use the compost one creates as a company or citizen if there is no garden available. What use does it have if you can't use it yourself or sell it?
Okay, so the first thing we tell companies is if you don't need the compost, don't compost. There is no point of composting if you don't want the compost. Composting is very interesting for the environment if it is used. Otherwise, it's completely useless. So I didn't mention it, but it's on my slides. We allowed companies to compost as a group, as a community, companies as well, so they can be a few companies together and compost in the same framework. So 25 square meters, but not square, cubic meters maximum and everything. And then if one of the partners has need for the compost, he can use all the compost. That's fine, as long as he's a member of this cluster. And so if he's a gardener, if he's in whatever, a lot of people, I mean, companies need compost. If he has grounds, if he has a commune can be part of the cluster, and then they can use the compost in the green space, parks and everywhere. And for the citizen, it's about the same, only the citizen can use them. And in a group of citizens, there is always someone with a garden, or even if you have flower pots in your flats, you will need compost every year. And so they can use it. And we made an exemption again for the communes. They can participate to the city composting by bringing their brown matter, because maybe you know that when you compost, you cannot only put kitchen waste. They are too high in nitrogen. You need to put also carbon, and the carbon comes mostly from wood, also the leaves in autumn, brown material mostly. And so this, for citizen, it's not easy to find, but the commune usually produces it in the parks, on the streets when they have to cut trees and everything. So the communes are a partner, and therefore the commune can use the excess composts that the citizens don't use. And again, the commune have huge needs of compost for their parks and everything. So this allows them to buy less, but it's mostly for the citizen that it helps, because then the citizen can get rid of the excess and can compost further, because they need the room to do it.
Thanks a lot, Nicola. I'm afraid this is all the time we had for questions to Nicola. We will now move on to the market aspects. And for that, we have Morana Jecnachak from IPS with us. Morana has graduated from Faculty of Agriculture at the University of Zagreb with a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics and a master's degree in viticulture. She is currently working as a project assistant at IPS Consulting, and she has been working on Horizon 2020 and Erasmus Plus projects. Currently, she is working on the NoaFert project, which is the sister project of FairPlay, and she's involved in the market and customer segment and behavioral analysis. And today she will provide us insights into the market readiness of circular fertilizers, as well as their legal availability and cost competitiveness. So, Morana, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I will share my screen. So hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to attend today at the FairPlay event. So I will talk about whether CFs are available on the market, their legal status, and whether they are more cost-effective than conventional fertilizers. CFs are becoming increasingly relevant as the EU shifts towards more environmentally friendly agricultural practices. The transition aligns with sustainability goals, reducing reliance on non-renewable resources and promoting a circular economy. However, despite their potential, the adoption of CFs remains slow. Surveys conducted within the NoaFert project reveal that many stakeholders, including farmers, are still unaware of CFs and their benefits. While there is a growing interest in sustainability, concerns about consistency, soil health, and proper application methods still persist. Nevertheless, with policy support and increasing awareness, CFs are gaining appreciation in the market. The market penetration of CFs faces several challenges. Production remains smaller than conventional fertilizers. limiting availability and increasing costs, many farmers hesitate to switch due to concerns about yield consistency, while a lack of awareness about CF benefits further slow the adoption. Additionally, supply chain limitations make CF less accessible to interested farmers. The EU is advancing regulation to support CFs with the fertilizing products regulation, enabling CE marking for organic and waste-derived fertilizers. Policies like Farm to Fork strategy and Circular Economy Action Plan further encourage their adoption. However, challenges remain, including complex certification processes, national restrictions due to contamination concerns, and inconsistent regulations across EU member states, slowing market integration. CFs are generally more expensive than conventional fertilizers due to smaller production scales and advanced processing requirements. However, CFs offer price stability. Unlike traditional fertilizers, farmers are open to using CFs if they cost the same or less, especially when considering long-term benefits like improved soil health and reduce reliance on imports. So subsidies and government support can help reduce the cost gap, making CF more accessible to farmers. Increased adoption may drive competition, further lowering prices. While CFs have higher upfront costs, their long-term benefits, such as soil health and sustainability, make them as a good choice. Greater market transparency, including a centralized CF pricing database, would also be helpful for farmers to make informed decisions. CFs are key to sustainable agriculture and align with EU goals. While challenges are cost and awareness remain, ongoing research, policy support, and education can drive adoption. You can here scan the QR codes to participate in behavioral research, whether you are a farmer, technologist, or consumer. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Morana. We do not have questions from the online audience, so I'm going to ask you some questions myself. You have mentioned that the bio-based fertilizers are gaining more interest and importance in EU. I was wondering if you have any idea what their market share is today compared to conventional fertilizers.
I don't know, really. I can see and contact you through email.
That was a difficult question. Another one, can you share with us, for instance, a successful case study where a circular fertilizer was widely adopted in a region or a local government in EU?
Okay, so the successful story is our living lab, our lighthouse demo. He produces digestate. So this is some success story.
Another question is, you have mentioned that farmers are hesitant to switch to circular fertilizers due to concerns over yield consistency or about contaminants. Can you give us an example of a strategy or an education effort that can help overcome this hesitation?
Maybe education and raising the awareness are crucial for the widespread adoption of CFs. Many farmers are unaware of the benefits, so maybe providing education through workshops, seminars, and pilot programs can help farmers to make informed decisions about using CFs.
Thanks a lot, Morana. Did we have any? Okay. In that case, I want to thank you, all of our speakers, to Werner Boot-Kote, to Vanessa Benito, to Nicola Cherrier, and Morana Zernacek for their insights. And of course, a thank you to all the participants here in Brussels and joining us online for your participation. If we could not get to your question during this webinar, please feel free to contact us, and then we can forward your question to our experts. And if you want to learn more about circular fertilizers, please take a look at the FairPlay website. There are many deliverables that can be useful to a wide audience of stakeholders, so we can keep the conversation going. So thank you all, and have a fabulous day.
Thank you.